It may be many years before we forget that hot week in June this year, where temperatures breached 110 degrees. Households struggled to stay cool and prevent heat stroke, and farms worked overtime to keep their animals healthy. Unfortunately, with the way our world is developing right now, we can expect more and more days like this in our future, unless we do something about it. These record-breaking temperatures are due in part to climate change, or changes in Earth's average temperature, precipitation, and storm frequency. This change in climate is primarily caused by humans. We use greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide to power our world. These greenhouse gases accumulate in our atmosphere and trap heat, increasing the temperature of our planet by close to 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit in the past 132 years. This may not seem like much, but even small changes like this have huge impacts on our world. Currently, we're producing a lot of CO2. The United States averages 20 metric tons of CO2 per person annually. That's the equivalent of the weight of a school bus filled with kids. Thurston County averages 11 metric tons per person. This may be lower than the country on average, but we can still do better, as the world average is 4.8 metric tons. Climate change is not something to mess around with, and it affects us all. Different parts of the world will experience different effects. Here in the South Sound, we will see average annual temperature continue to rise, with hotter, drier summers and warmer, wetter winters. This can worsen floods, fires, and landslides. It may also introduce invasive plants, insects, and diseases as our warmer climate becomes more hospitable to them. Rising sea levels due to melting Arctic and Antarctic ice will cause flooding and structural damage to buildings near sea level. Here in Olympia, we have lots of development close to the water, including our downtown area. These are only some of the many cascading effects climate change can have. Climate change is at the forefront of our attention because the problem is getting more and more critical every year. To respond to the needs of our community, Thurston Regional Planning Council has come up with the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. Climate mitigation means taking actions to prevent greenhouse gases from entering our atmosphere. So what is this plan? The Climate Mitigation Plan is not a legal document. It's a suggestion of how our government can move toward greenhouse gas reduction goals. The plan recognizes that climate change is a dynamic issue and new information will continue to be learned. Because of this, the plan considers the long-term and intergenerational impacts of climate change and provides space to adapt to new information. The plan focuses on equity with an inclusive process and benefits for all levels of society. It recognizes that lower income, POC, immigrant, and elderly communities are more vulnerable to climate impacts and will take that into account when making plans. These are the overarching ideals of the plan, but let's look at some more tangible goals. The Thurston Mitigation Plan has a target of 85% emission reduction from 2015 levels by 2050. There are 12 goals, including preserving environmentally sensitive lands, protecting air and water quality, working towards zero waste and carbon neutrality, and supporting local food systems. A lot of these may still sound like ideals and not plans, but the Climate Mitigation Plan does include a lot of tangible actions. There are too many steps outlined to include today, but I'll mention a few. First, the plan recommends commercial buildings install LED lighting and reflective roofs to improve energy efficiency, and that governments set performance standards for buildings to meet. The plan also advises an increase in production of local renewable energy by installing solar panels on public buildings and by requiring new buildings to be constructed in a way that allows future solar installation. Another focus of the Climate Mitigation Plan is transportation. It suggests an increase in the use of electric vehicles. A few ways to encourage this are requiring parking lots and garages to designate a certain number of spots to electric car charging, allowing free parking for electric vehicles, and public education. Increasing the use of public transportation is another way to reduce travel emissions. This can be done by increasing the range of the public transit system, giving free fares, and working with employers to provide incentives for use. All of these ideas are great, but they have to be implemented. The plan overviews strategies to make these actions happen. There are various stages of implementation. The first is voluntary action, or encouraging businesses and people to choose to be sustainable. Next is price signals, or making it more financially realistic to take sustainable action. This can be through tax cuts, price raises, etc. The next stage is public investment, using public funding to make changes. Finally, there is mandated change through government regulation. The hope is that through all of these stages, we will be able to implement the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. All of this information begs the question, is the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan enough? In respect to climate change, we know that there is a lot that needs to be done. The plan itself acknowledges that it is not enough. We need to be making huge strides to reduce climate change, and it can't be done by one person, county, or even country alone. Climate change has no borders, and we will have to work together as a world to make a change. However, any step in the right direction is a good step, and this plan has a lot of benefits. It is tangible, and it gives concrete ideas with implementation strategies to actually make a change and take action. As Harry Truman once said, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. If any of these problems stand out to you, there is so much you can do, including supporting the Thurston County Climate Mitigation Plan. In your own life, you can take steps towards buying local, sharing rides, using public transportation, and buying efficient appliances. Finally, talk about it. Help us educate each other about the importance of climate mitigation so we can move toward a more sustainable world. These problems may seem far away to you, but they are not. Climate change is something my peers and I will have to deal with on a daily basis. So if you cannot make a change for yourself, do it for your children, grandchildren, and for the younger generations who just want to make a place in the world for their futures. All this information was taken directly from the final Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan document. Thank you.